I thought it was important to expand on the idea of living in unanswered questions. Yeah, living in unanswered questions, not living in the answers to questions, but in unanswered questions. You see, what I've come to understand is that questions lead to a more expansive life. If we don't ask questions, there is no possibility that we see life differently, that we can possibly change. But here's the key thing. It's not that questions lead to a more expansive life. It's quality questions. Questions that concern, how do I become a greater expression of me? How do I experience a greater life? How do I step into the unknown without fear and become the greater Lee? You see, when we stop asking questions, we begin to rot. Yeah, I said the word rot. I don't know, well, I didn't know how else to say it. I could say we begin to die, and rotting and dying are the same things, but when I put the slide together, I felt rot was important because you can come back, you can regenerate by just starting to ask questions again. And you know, one of the things is, remember when you were 2 and you kept asking the question, why, over and over again? And your parents got tired of it, and you actually were domesticated into believing that asking a lot of questions was not the good thing. But guess what? In every relationship, in just about every situation in life, if you're not asking questions, you're probably going to screw it up, or it's not going to give you the results you want. So questions are critical. You see, right now, if you think about this, the world expects us to believe its ideas. The news media expects us to believe their ideas. The politicians expect us to believe their ideas. The corporations expect us to believe our ideas. And if we don't believe, we're labeled as weird, we're labeled as nonconformist, we're labeled as not supporting the greater good. But think about this. You were born to be unique. You were born different than anyone that has ever been on the planet, that ever will be on the planet. And so to be that a uniqueness, you must understand that questions are your key and most valuable tool. You were not meant to be a cog, or let me say it this way, you are not meant to be a brick in the wall. Realize when people don't want you to question anything, the reason behind that is they have a desire for control. It's so much easier to control a situation, to control people, if questions are not being allowed. But without question, there can be no expansion. And I'm going to tell you this, I don't know about you, but I know for me, I was not meant here to be controlled and to live up to someone else's expectations. Here's one of the things I learned from Dr. John DeMartini, that the key, the source of all depression and anxiety is unrealistic expectations that we have set for ourselves, or we have been set for us by others that we have bought into. And I don't know about you, but I'd rather set my own expectations and not worry about the others. The other thing that's come to me as I live my life is that every life experience takes place for a reason. In other words, when I do something, I put out a cause. And when I put out a cause, there is a response, an effect. And I learned that the cause I'm putting out is giving me a specific result. So I'm there to learn, is it the result I want, or is it something different? Or if I hang around certain types of people, I'm going to have this type of experience. Well, maybe I don't want to hang around those type of people because I don't want that experience. Am I making a picture bright enough for you to see that if you look at your life right now, the person you are being, the people you are surrounding yourself with, the situations you are in are creating your current experience. And if you want to change your current experience, you've got to ask questions about what can I do differently from what I'm currently doing? How can I change the relationships with the people I'm with? How can I change the circumstances, the place, the events, what I'm doing, thinking, speaking, feeling, that will allow me to become the man or the woman that would have a different experience? But few of us seek the reason why. When an experience happens and we ask the question why, we're looking for what is the cause. We're not looking to be the victim. It's not about the victimhood. Don't get me wrong, because I'm all about 100% personal responsibility for our experience. Not what happens to us, but for our experience. Because let me tell you, things are going to happen that you didn't plan on, that you had nothing to do with, because we live with 7.8 billion other people. We have Mother Nature surrounding us. We live on a planet where there are natural events occurring. And we may be in the wrong place at the wrong time, but in our mind, we have the ability to see how we choose to experience that experience. One of the things that I've come to understand is that science never stops asking why. Never. So when you hear people say the science of this situation is this, and you need to follow, and they say this is the ultimate, and they're not asking more whys, that's not science. That's opinions to a limited amount of data, because science is constantly seeking more data. And one of the things at Agape is we pride ourselves at being religious scientists. And as religious scientists, we should never, ever stop asking. We're always asking questions about how is life working? Why is life working that way? How can I change my life? Religious scientists take spiritual theory, ideas, and we prove them for ourselves. And when we prove it for ourselves, we're not buying into someone else's idea. We've proven it. Therefore, it's not only our idea, but we have proof. That's one of the things I learned from a guru in India. When we sat down one-on-one, me and my friend Naranjan, and we talked about things, he kept asking when I would say something, where's your proof? I would say, well, this is. He says, no, that's an opinion. Where's your proof? That's an opinion. He would go, where's your proof? And I finally came to the idea that just about everything that I thought was an opinion. The one thing I do know that I have proof of is that I am aware. What does it look like? I don't know, but I know I'm aware because I'm observing, I'm talking, I'm responding. I am aware. I look at that and say I'm a point of consciousness that's aware. There's an assumption there. I'm a point of consciousness. But I do know that I am a microcosm of what I believe the great I am is. And as a microcosm of the macrocosm, that which creates everything responds to me. You see, throughout my life, I kept asking, what's my purpose in life? What's my purpose in life? And this is what I've come up with. Our purpose is to experience an ever-expanding life. Did you hear that? An ever-expanding life. Because think about this. When do you get bored? When life is not expanding. When are you depressed? When life is not expanding. Everything that we seek is for a more expansive experience. This means, in order to do that, we must be able to live with unanswered questions. Yeah, because it's the questions that help us expand. The uncomfortable mind is the one that never gives up asking questions until it finds answers. And then it asks more questions. See, the mind becomes uncomfortable because it gets afraid, because it's been conditioned, it's been domesticating into believing that we need to fear the unknown. But the unknown is where all expansion takes place. So to be able to be peaceful and live in unanswered questions and keep asking until we find answers and then ask more questions, that's the key to being in life today. When we question everything, we open ourselves up to greater possibilities. I'm said, question everything. My son and I and Jean, we sat down and we talked about relationships. We talked about the relationship that we have, Jean and I. And we were always asking questions of the relationship. How can we have a more expanded experience with each other? How can we have greater intimacy in our relationship? Without us having done that I've now dated my wife 50 years. Going on 49 years of marriage. If we weren't asking those questions, we would have been bored and probably divorced. But because our relationship is expanding, it's got value. You see, if something's not expanding, there's no value in the future. You see, boredom controls the mind that is not open to question. So if you're bored, it's saying you're not asking questions or you're not asking expansive questions. Quality questions. So if you start looking at your life, whether it's physically, mentally, emotionally, career, relationship-wise, money-wise, whatever it might be, fun, are you bored with life because you're not having enough fun? You've got to ask questions. What does fun look like? What does it feel like? And become the person who would have that. A healthy, functioning mind creates a healthy body and a healthy emotional state. Did you hear that? A healthy, functioning mind, a mind that's about expansion. Why does it create a healthy body? Because it needs a healthy body to experience. It needs a healthy emotional state to experience. Because without that, it can't function the way it wants to. So we're all tied together. It's spirit, mind, and body. Without questions, life has no further meaning. And without further meaning, we die. We rot. There's no further point to continuing our existence. Questions bring us a deeper and more expansive meaning to life. If you're asking quality, expanding questions, I promise you, you will have a life that is amazing. But again, don't believe me. Prove it for yourself. Start today by asking more questions.